welcome to the Wayfaring Panda Superhero Saturday. I'm Annette. I'm making superhero themed cards each Saturday with some products that I got at the Creating Keepsakes convention from Scrappy Boy Stamps. So I got 2 stamp sets that kind of have superhero themes as well as some papers and some stencils. And I used stencils on the last Saturday. So this Saturday, I'm making a slider card. So first of all, I'm starting with the inside panel of my card. I just cut some white cardstock, a little bit smaller than the inside of my card. And I'm using some VersaFine ink to stamp the sentiment, which is have a super birthday. Then I used my stamping block with Memento Tuxedo black ink to stamp 2 of the stamps from the You're My Hero stamp set, which is also where the sentiment came from. And one of them says splat and the other one says boom. And I'm using Memento ink because it is alcohol ink friendly. I use my Copic R27 to color in the word splat. Then I use B24, which is sky blue, to color in the boom. I'm just doing this so that I can add some color to the inside of the card. I used my Nuvo Deluxe glue to glue my white panel to the inside of my card, and the card I just made with some red cardstock that is 8.5 times 11, and I just trimmed that down to 8 by 9 and then folded it in half. For the slider card, I needed a separate piece of paper for the front of the card, so I just cut some red cardstock, the same as I did for the card base, and it's 4 by 9. And I'm going to be using the stencil, which is called the Slimline Comic Builder Stencil, just the one. It's a 2-part stencil, so if you wanted to use ink blending or something like that, you can. But I'm going to be using their pattern paper, which comes from the Scrappy Boy Stamps, and it's just called their Superheroes paper. And it's 6 by 6 paper. I'm just laying out the 4 sides of paper that I chose and how I want them to be. Each one I'm going to use for one of those quadrilaterals on the stencil, and I'm using the stencil to cut out my shapes. So when I put the stencil down, I have to flip the stencil over since I trace it on the back. That way I don't have to worry about any pencils showing on the right side of the paper. And then I just use that to cut out. Now I did find that the stencil is very thin because you can see how thin these lines are, so it moved when I tried to use the pencil. So then I started using my low-tack tape from scrapbook.com or whatever type of low-tack tape that you have will hold it so that your stencil doesn't move when you're drawing. After I cut each section, I just hold it up to my card to make sure that I have cut it correctly and that everything is fitting together. I do the same for each section, so I will speed up the video quite a bit so you don't have to watch me taping and cutting for a long time. The big difference was the one in the top left-hand corner. That section was bigger than 6 across, so I just had to turn it at an angle. Otherwise, I was trying to put my stencil where I could get the most use of my paper so I could use it for future cards. And the one that has the city landscape, I ended up putting it at the top because I'm going to use the city landscape for a future card. Then I just used my Nuvo Deluxe glue to glue all my pieces into place. For the slider element, I'm using my Lawn Fawn Slide On Over die, and I'm just using the one that's a straight line because I wanted the one that kind of looks like the Flash to look like he's running fast. So I just kind of figure out about where I need him to be, and then I run it through my die cutting machine. I used some low-tack tape to attach my die so that way it wouldn't move when I was running it through my die cutting machine. And then when I tried to take the tape off, it was sticking a little bit to the top white paper, so I had to take it off really slow and just be really gentle so it wouldn't tear my paper. I put my panel on my card so I can see where to line up the part that got cut out, and I used my Nuvo Deluxe glue to glue that down into the section where the cutout is. Then I put a foam dot on a penny for my slider mechanism, and then I attach it to my penny and then to the flash, and that will hold it in place. I did try using a foam square, but the opening isn't big enough for a square, but the circle worked just fine. Now I know they do sell some kind of plastic thing that you can use for the slider card instead of using a penny, but I'm sure it costs way more than a penny, so why do that? I haven't made a slider card for a while, and actually I think this image is bigger than the ones I've done in the past. So it seemed to kind of wobble a little bit, like the flash would turn sideways a little bit. So I think to correct that in the future, I would cut 2 slider slots. One where it would be lined up with his head and one for his body. And then that way you can attach it to both places and it would slide together, and then your character wouldn't wobble back and forth. Then I just add some double-sided foam tape to the back of the card, and I test it out a couple times just to make sure the slider mechanism is working, and trying to decide whether I need a second layer foam tape, which I did not need. Sometimes you do need like 2 layers of the foam tape for your interactive elements to work. I added quite a bit of foam tape to the back to make sure that the panel was sturdy, and also make sure that the foam tape isn't in the way of the penny moving around. Otherwise your mechanism won't work. For the final step, I add some foam squares to my other cartoon character, which I believe is Cyborg. And I remember this character was on one of the superhero shows I watched when I was younger, I think back in the 70s. And he was originally African American, or at least when I watched it he was. And I colored the Flash, I'll call him, that too, because the child I'm giving this to is African American. And that's a great thing about coloring your own images. You can make whatever hair color or skin tone that you want, that you think might be appropriate for the child you're giving it to, so everyone has characters that they can relate to. I did not do any filming of the coloring of the characters for last week's card or this one, but if you are interested in seeing how I color some of these superheroes, just let me know and I'll make a video about that. I'll put a list of all the products that I'm using in the description below. Some of these will be affiliate links. They don't cost you anything extra to use, but I do get a small commission from any sales that those links generate, and that helps support my channel. Now the Scrappy Boy Stamps, don't know if they sell it at any other place other than their website, and there is not an affiliate program, so they won't be affiliate links, but I will put a link to their site if you're interested in their products. And I believe they do go to a lot of the scrapbook and stamp conventions, so if you have one near you, you can see if they're going to it. I do know when I went to the convention near me, they were doing a sale at their booth. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a like. And if you're not already a subscriber, I'd really appreciate if you can subscribe to my channel. That really helps my channel grow and gets my videos out to more people. And also, you'll be alerted of any new videos coming out. I will have more coming in the superhero series, so you can check those out in the future. I hope everyone has a wonderful day.